Hey, everybody. Before you check out this incredible story from Amanda, I just wanted to let you know that everything that could have gone wrong, well, it did. The microphones weren't working properly, the cameras were switching views randomly, the lighting was off, and so forth. I did my best to correct everything, but please do not let my aesthetic mistakes take you away from this incredible story. This is Amanda's first time sharing her journey from addiction to recovery, so please support her by listening to her words and not focusing on my inexperience. Thank you.
What's up, Dad Bod Nation? It's Dad Bod Steve. We have our first in-studio podcast today. We're so excited for this. We have an incredible story. Let me introduce to you guys our guest. She has an awesome story that we've been excited to tell. This is Amanda. Amanda, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
So go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience. Let us know about you, what your background is.
So my name is Amanda, and I am from northern Utah. I'm in recovery. I have 3 kids. I'm a single mom, just doing the thing. But in September, I got 10 years of sobriety.
10 years.
10 years.
10
yeah.
years. That is awesome.
Yeah.
10 years. And we've talked a little bit about your story. And what's cool that people need to know about is you saw me interview someone else who you had a background with, Kyle Hickman.
Yeah.
And then you commented and said, hey, I've been in recovery for 10 years. And I said, hey, let me know your story. We met on TikTok and you live 20 minutes away.
Yeah.
And so that was really cool. So, and your kids are here. That's awesome. So if you guys hear the kids a little bit, they're over there playing. So let's go ahead and go into your story. You told me about, things started for you when you were young. Let's start from the beginning. In all honesty, you experienced a lot more than what a lot of people have in their whole lifetime.
Yeah. That was when I started drinking and breaking into my friend's parents' liquor stash. Got to fill the water back up so that it's the same level.
Mm-hmm.
Alcohol doesn't freeze. I learned that. Yeah.
So what was your first experience with substance abuse or any type of substance?
Well, from the time I was 12, I kind of went crazy. Alcohol was my first drug mixed with nicotine. And then I did salvia before I even smoked weed.
Okay.
And then I went straight from smoking weed to doing hard drugs. And meth was my drug of choice.
Meth was your drug of choice.
Yeah.
What was it, the first experience that made you actually want to start? Was there a friend influence? Was it someone who kind of said, hey, we want to do this? Or was it an escape for you?
So my mom decided that I was using and I wasn't. And then I found out that the guy I was dating at the time, who had 7 years of sobriety, had relapsed. And initially it was I want you to stop. So if I tell you I want to do it, maybe you'll stop. But he just didn't. He just let me have some. So.
Oh, he just
and then
it to you.
Yeah. So my first use with meth was around Halloween. And then by it was January 31st when I got raided.
Okay. And so he introduced meth to you.
Mm-hmm.
Had you ever been introduced to it before or
No.
even thought about it?
No. I was always one of those, I'll never do meth because I like my teeth too much. That was my excuse.
I hear that a lot.
I like my teeth. And luckily they look pretty still kind of, but I ain't got no back ones. So eating's fun.
So they're gone now.
Yeah.
Gone. How long were you on meth?
So if you put all of my use together, it was less than 6 months. I heard this saying, you're supposed to do the drugs, not let the drugs do you. I flew off the handle and I didn't hang out with very smart people.
Okay.
So I'm not a smooth criminal.
Not a smooth criminal. You told me before too, when we were talking about your story, things started kind of early for you. You experienced a lot of stuff. You had fires. You had death in a family. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, so when I was in the second grade, my little sister died. And that was like my first experience with the death of someone close to me. And um, that was when I started to hate God, because like I was told my whole life, I was raised Mormon. And so I was told my whole life about how there's power behind prayer. And like when the accident happened, it was in a really small hospital because it was in Preston, Idaho. And like they don't have a chapel. And so we just went and found a quiet corner of the hospital and we said this prayer. And I was like, basically, don't take my sister from me. And then she died. And it was like they could have kept her alive on like life support, but she was a vegetable because her brain stem got broken in the accident. So her brain wasn't telling her body, like, beat your heart and breathe and all of the things that you don't even think about doing. Her brain wasn't telling her body to do it. And so it was like, keep her alive on machines or just not.
Yeah.
And it was 2 weeks before her second birthday. And so she was just little.
And how old were you when this happened?
7.
7 years old.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah. And it was a big thing because I was the only one in my family that wasn't in the car. I was at my grandma's day of school.
Okay.
And I got sick at school. And so my mom came and got me from school and took me out to my grandma's because we were going out there anyway. But then she had to go pick up my older brother from school because she didn't just take him out with me.
Mm-hmm.
So they were on their way back to my grandma's when the accident happened.
Okay. How did they notify you of that?
They called my grandma from the hospital.
In addition to that, was there a bunch of other things that happened in your life that kind of?
Oh yeah, it's
kept
like
going and going.
It's like, and so I grew up in a broken home, like the typical non-emotionally available parents. By the time like I bounced back and forth between my mom and my dad's house a little bit, and then when I was 14, my dad kicked me out, sent me to my mom's, and then when I was 16, we'll go into that later. When I was 16, my mom kicked me out, and I moved in with my boyfriend at the time.
At 16?
Yeah. Going to I went to high school and worked full time.
Okay. So when you were with your boyfriend, was there any type of drug experimentation with him? Were you already doing substances?
Oh no, that was just drinking. Like I didn't even smoke weed at that point.
Okay.
So
then you're in high school, you're out with your family a little bit. It sounds like you're having some issues with family. When you became an adult afterwards,
mm-hmm.
When did the actual drug use start? Like what was your first experience?
My first experiences with the hard drugs was actually fentanyl. Before I moved in with my boyfriend, I was couch surfing basically. And I ended up living with this guy that had like stage 4 cancer. And he just smoked weed to take care of his pain, to maintain his appetite and all of the things. And they were prescribing him fentanyl patches.
Wow.
And so he would not use the fentanyl patches because he just smoked weed. And I would use the fentanyl patches. And I remember this one Halloween I don't know what dose they were or anything like that. I didn't ask. I didn't care. But I would run around with fentanyl patches on while I was popping Percocets, and so many people have died from fentanyl now that I'm like, how am I even alive? Like
little trace amounts.
Yeah.
From. And so that is crazy. And it's not usually a first drug that people try.
Yeah. Because mine was definitely pills when I first started. And then I realized that like, yes, I can go overboard on other substances, but meth is the one substance that I literally cannot control. To get sober from meth, I go to jail. And like, it's fast. Because my first use was around Halloween. I got raided by Strike Force by January, the end of January. And my last relapse was 4 days long.
4 days.
4 days.
4 days.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
And it was like my best friend died while I was in jail. I was in jail on a retail theft, 60 days. They don't like it when you get caught stealing. Anyways.
Yeah, it's pretty typical.
I had just barely gotten out of O&A and went upstairs, and they called me out of the pod and told me that my best friend had died. And like denial was strong. And I was in jail with one of her neighbors, and I looked at her neighbor and I was like, when you get out, because you're only here on a warrant, I'm here for 60 days. When you get out, you're going to go to Donna's and you're going to be like, why did you have them tell Amanda you were dead? And then the next day it was on the news because she was driving home. Well, her boyfriend was driving her home from California.
Mm-hmm.
And in, I think it was Reno, they got in an accident and she died instantly. He died on scene and their daughter was orphaned.
Wow. So what happened to their daughter?
She lives with the grandpa now, I guess, because her mom just died. Like, Donna's mom just died. Okay. So the daughter lives with grandpa.
So just one thing
oh,
after
yeah.
another.
Oh, yeah.
Constantly.
I decided that the reason that I got to stop being so quiet about my recovery is because I'm really sick of burying people. Mm-hmm. I've been to so many funerals that it's unbelievable. And if it was any other situation, there would be so much more like resources. But because it's the lowly,
yeah,
they don't want to fork out the money. They'd rather throw you in jail than help you fix your problems.
And going back to you saying I've buried so many people. During your addiction, what was it that kept you going? You know, when I interviewed Kyle, as you saw, one of the things that he said was, I didn't even think I was magic. I thought I was just having fun. What was it with you?
I'm only hurting myself. I'm not bothering anybody. I'm not breaking any laws. Like, while I was using, I worked a full-time job. Mm-hmm. I maintained a place to live. I was functional in that degree.
Right.
But like, I wasn't good. I wasn't a good person. I was really rude. I was super selfish. I didn't really care about anyone else or anything else. Everything but the drugs was not important to me anymore.
So when you went to rehab for the first time, was that after you went to jail for the theft?
I actually never even got to go to rehab.
You never went to rehab?
I did drug court, so I was outpatient treatment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where did you do that at?
In Box Elder County.
Box Elder County?
Yeah.
Did you do independent living? Was that one of those things?
No, so my oldest son's dad made it so I could stay with his mom and stepdad. And so I stayed with them until I started dating my middle son's dad. Mm-hmm. And then I moved in with him. But it was like do drug court or go to prison.
Yeah.
Because what, baby?
I love you.
I love you too. I was on felony probation and misdemeanor probation at the same time because I had the retail thefts and the drug possession. Okay. And then I got another possession charge in Box Elder County and did drug court.
So take me through drug court. I haven't done it. Seen a lot of people or met a lot of people go through drug court itself. Uh-huh. Usually it's rehab or recovery of some sort.
Right.
What does entail with drug court?
So you do an intake appointment with a substance abuse counselor, and then they basically build you a treatment plan based off of your entire drug history. And when I started drug court, because I was already on felony probation for possession, so I'd already done like a year's worth of treatment already. And so they got creative with the group. So they put me in But the first group that you go in typically is called IOP, which is Intense Outpatient Treatment. And it is a group that is 4 days a week for either 3 or 4 hours a day.
Okay.
And so in drug court, there's phases. It depends on where you're at, how many there are, though, and how long they are. Because each phase has a certain amount of time that you have to be in that phase.
Okay.
And then, except for the first one. The first one, you have to go 30 days without a dirty and complete IOP. And then you can move to phase 2. Well, and pay your phase fee.
So do you have to check in with the courts every so often?
Oh, yeah. So when you're in phase 1, it's once a week. And then phase 2 is every other week. 2 and 3 was every other week. 4 was the 3rd week of the month. And 5 was just once. I think 4 and 5 were the same. The 3rd week of the month.
Okay. And how long do you stay in drug court, or is it individualized for everybody?
It's a minimum of, it was 3 months or 4 months per phase, 1 through 4, and then phase 5 was 3 months.
So just over a year.
And that is like the minimum. Because then like you have to take into account that if you relapse, you get a sanction. And when you lose there are certain things that will like pause your phase time. Like if you're on narcotics outside of the hospital, they'll pause your phase time.
Okay.
And different stuff like that.
So yeah, so one of the group homes that's at my school is a drug rehab home, right? So if they have dirty UA or they do anything else that's against house rules, they drop what's called a level. So I'm guessing it's kind of the same thing. They either extend your period, right?
Right.
Okay. Did that ever happen to you?
No, actually, I completed drug court with no dirties.
Nice.
There was one time that they thought I had a dirty, but they found out that a tube inside the testing machine had come loose.
Oh.
And one dirty sample contaminated 30 other samples.
So did they have to retest everybody for all of that?
Yes. And a lot of people wouldn't have gotten the grace that they got had I not spoken up. If you ever are drug testing for someone and you're not dirty and it comes up dirty, make them retest it. Because stuff like that can happen.
So I was at a meeting with one of the group homes, and they were saying that those tests sometimes, if you buy the cheap test, it's like a 60% accuracy. And they have to spend more money. Well, they don't have a lot of money for this.
Right.
And so they spend less money, and it's tests that a lot of people will say, hey, I need to retest it. And they'll get 2 or 3 different results from the same person in the same day, right? Even the same urine sample.
Right.
And so that definitely one of those things you got to watch out for.
Yeah.
So you did drug court. How long ago was that?
7 years ago I graduated.
7 years ago.
Yeah. I signed up for drug court on October 14th of 2014. So when it changed for me was when I was actually observing drug court.
Okay.
So I was observing drug court, and I was in Box Elder County, and my oldest son's dad brought my son in to visit me in jail. And that was the moment that it clicked that I was affecting other people. And
when your
that
son came to you.
Yeah, because it wasn't a like physical, we couldn't touch each other because there was glass.
Yeah.
And so he was 2 at the time. And he was like, why is there glass in between us? Why can't I touch you? Why are you wearing those funny clothes, Mommy? And so I just had to tell him that I had gotten in trouble and that I had to be in timeout for a little bit. And that was really when it hit me that I was missing stuff, like important stuff, especially in my son's life. And like that my behaviors weren't just affecting me. It was affecting at least him too. And that was really the one person that I actually cared about at the time. So
you see that a lot with people, and they say, oh, I'm only affecting me. Why do you care what I do? Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's me, my body. You don't have to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
But you always see the family worrying. You have parents who worry, right? You have siblings who worry. And then I've noticed a lot when it's someone in the older generation going through recovery, it is their kids that make that big difference. And
yeah. One of the things that I always heard that I don't think it's right. Like, they always tell you that you can't get clean for someone else. But like, when I was early in recovery, I didn't love myself enough to even want to still be on the planet. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because I had literally destroyed my whole life. Like, the whole thing was up in smoke. And so it was really hard to come to terms with the fact that I needed to be better and do better in order to get better. And
after that, then you went to drug court. And you got clean.
Yep.
And then you moved to, did you stay in Box Elder or did you move somewhere else?
Well, I lived in Box Elder until about probably 7 months after I graduated. And then I moved back to Cache Valley. But then I went to chase a boy. And I lived in Idaho, up by Boise for a little bit. Lived in Washington. That was fun. It was a good month and a half.
And then you came back to Utah.
Yeah, I figured out that boy wasn't worth it no more, so I came home.
That's awesome. So you have 3 kids. One thing you said that was really interesting to me was you said, I have 3 kids, but I feel like I'm a mom of so many. Do you want to explain that to me?
So I'm like, kids are like super important to me, and just like the friendships I've made where they have their kids, like I'm either Aunt Panda or Mama Panda, and everyone loves me. All the kids do. And so like I have kids that they're not mine, but they're mine. A lot of them actually. So
do you work in an industry where you work with kids? Is that what you do? Or do you're just in the neighborhood, you just make friends with a lot of people?
Between the men that I dated that already had kids and like taking care of their kids as if they were my own, because when you get with someone, their kids should be just as important to you as they are.
Yeah.
And so I always made it a point to make sure that I was the kid that never really felt loved as a kid. I was an outcast. I got bullied in school. Like, all of the crazy stuff that you don't want to have happen to you is stuff that has happened to me. And so I don't ever want another kid to feel the way that I felt growing up.
Yeah.
So kids are super important. Like, kids' happiness is super important to me.
No, it's big. And the fact that you went through drug court, you're clean now, that helps you out a lot.
Oh, yeah.
With all of that. And then you're moving. You're taking off.
Yeah.
You're leaving.
On to the next adventure.
And that's pretty soon, right?
That's by next week I will be gone probably. So
that is nuts.
Yeah.
Was there anything else that you wanted to share?
I don't know. Not that I can think of.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, of course.
It was great talking to you. And I really hope that this reaches somebody.
Oh, yeah, me too.
And they can say, hey, I'm in that same situation. There is hope. Right?
Oh, yeah.
You really want to see that there is hope.
Oh, yeah.
And we want people to realize, like, you're not in a death trap. No matter how long you've been on drugs, right?
Yeah. You reach your rock bottom when you drop the shovel.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
When you stop digging the hole, you're at your rock bottom. And once you get there, up is the only place that you can go. You just got to put the shovel down. And you got to make that work. You got to get that work in. Because it's not easy. When people, one of the things Kyle said that was great when it came to his interview was, you can't just quit. People will always say that. Why don't you just quit? That it's not that easy. Yeah.
It's a mind-altering thing when it comes to drugs.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So you can't tell someone, oh, yeah, just quit. It's not that easy. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
Unless you've gone through it yourself, you don't know.
And
a lot of people have never gone through drug addiction. They go through addiction in other ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they've never gone through that drug addiction. And that's why I think Kyle is such a good therapist, because he's gone through it. So he understands what they've talked about.
Yeah.
And so, well, thank you again so much for coming.
Yeah.
Your kids have been a blast, too. They've been fun to be in here. My dog has been loving them.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you guys for joining in. And we really want to see you again for the next podcast. We'll see you later.